Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So today's video is going to be a full run of AQ map 7. I believe this is day 2 and we're basically going to be doing path 1 in every single section. So in section 1 we are starting off what's yours is mine node. The way it functions is basically if you place a weakness on opponent, you gain a fury buff that increases your attack by X%. I don't even really remember how much. However, if you do not have a fury buff of this effect, so any other fury buffs don't count, you are dealing only 25% damage of what you normally would. So base idea is you either need to use champion that consistently places weakness on opponent so you get those fury buffs, or you need to run resonate mastery, which is what we are doing in this video, because then you can use pretty much any champion. Your damage output is gonna kind of like vary depending on your RNG, how often you can place weaknesses, but overall it's still kind of good enough. So anyways, the first kind of warm-up fight is Yellowjacket. Didn't have too much trouble there with Ghost. Now I am using Ghost without any of her synergies, so that does make it a bit trickier, but overall it's like I don't mind. I'm fairly comfortable using her, getting hit sometimes because I throw a level 2 in a block, but it doesn't happen too often and normally you're more or less alright. Now this Mordo, still again what's yours is mine node, so we do need to have those fury buffs in order to deal decent amount of damage. Other than that, this guy is fairly annoying because, like, well, it's a Mordo because every now and then he has his glitch where he just absolutely refuses to throw special attack, so occasionally I do end up eating a level 3 from this guy. However, we are doing fairly good so far. The key kind of thing against Mordo is to keep the fight below 2 bars of power, because then even if you do not manage to interrupt his power gain phase, he is not going to reach 3 bars of power because of it. So only time you should let him be past 2 bars of power is when he's freshly out of his power gain phase or you interrupt it with your heavy attack. So there we ate like a small hit, not a big deal. Made another mistake, luckily he still was aggressive enough and we lucked out with that weakness and fury, so our last hit of level 2 actually dealt decent amount of damage. Once again we're interrupting his power gain with our heavy attack, and then we just need to pretty much finish the fight out. Now I did make a small slip up here, and you will see some small slip ups here and there overall, but we didn't do too bad in this day. And so yeah, the fight is over. Wasn't anything too complicated. It's Mordo annoying, but that's about it. So now War Machine. So War Machine once again is a fairly annoying opponent, just because whenever he shoots that level 1, you take block damage which you can't really avoid. However, Corvus is a really good matchup for that, just because you can armor break all of his armor buffs instantly, deal some good damage from start. We're also getting some decent RNG here, so we're having those furies up, we're hitting him relatively well. Now I'm not running suicides, and Corvus without suicides is, well, in my opinion at least, shadow of his real self, but it's still good enough. We're gonna get that tech mission done here, so that's all nice and fine. We have 8 charges remaining. We have the fury buff, so we dealt some good amount of damage. We armor broke all of his armor buffs which he gets when he goes low health. So far so good. Now we have SpiderGwen. Now SpiderGwen is a fairly annoying one, and ideally I just like to use Ghost against her and do like one-hit combos. Now combined with that what's yours is mine node, when you often don't really deal any damage, this fight can be fairly tricky. She has gotten me a few times, especially because often I have a bad habit of trying to do this fight linked, and it kind of depends on the week, because this week the link would have been like Oscillate, and that is a difficult one to kind of pull off. However, if the link is like simple Incinerate node or something of the sort, it's not too bad. So it really depends which variation of map 7 we are playing at any kind of given week. That's also why I decided to upload at least one AQ clear a week, just so you guys can see how map 7 changes, even though I'm going to be doing for most part probably the same set of paths, but there are 3 different variations of map 7 I believe, and then you have different buffs on opponents, pretty much yeah, week to week it changes. But yeah, so here in the fight it's all under control. Ghost phases SpiderGwen's attack, punishes it 1 hit. She can't evade it if we only do 1 hit, so yeah, we just need to kind of be careful, not make too many mistakes. drop our level 2s on point, ideally with Fury. Like in this case, we can see how little damage we did because we didn't have Fury from weakness. But we still just need to finish it out quickly. So that's it. This fight only took 39 hits anyway, so we didn't get punished, so that's good. And in section 1 I only have one fight remaining, which is like the last fight I do before I head to sleep, and that's Falcon. And we're gonna use Corvus for this fight again, just because War Machine apparently, for whatever reason, is not Avenger, but Falcon is. Therefore we want to get that Avenger charge just because kind of thing. So, and besides, like, to be absolutely honest, I don't really need Corvus for many fights. I just kind of threw him in as an add-on today, because section 2 I'm doing Freezer Burn, and that is kind of ghost territory for most part. I should also note that this is Science Week, and Science Champions get extra 40% attack bonus. Then we have Skill Champions who get extra 20% attack bonus. And lastly, we have Mystic Champions who deal minus 40% of their attack. So Mystic Champions are in disadvantage this week. But for most part it doesn't really come into play because we're using Cosmic and Tech, aside from the last section where it's super annoying when it's Mystic attack penalty. But anyway, so we finished off the fight there, nothing too difficult. We're on 2 charges and now we're heading to sleep, and we are going to carry on in the morning. So in the morning, first thing, like, because I do tend to clear AQ first thing as I wake up, and I had a little bit of a brain fart and I took in Corvus against Freezer Burn for no good reason really, and then that means pretty much we're gonna lose all our health in this fight, and it's gonna be much harder than it should have been. So, because obviously Corvus isn't immune to Incinerate, which is a debuff you get when you strike opponents in Freezer Burn. It's kind of like a biohazard, just poison is swapped over with Incinerate, and bleed is swapped over with Incinerate, and poison is swapped over with Cold Snap. And yeah, so here, as we can see, I am about to run out of my charges, so I do need to hit his block in order not to die, because the health is low, charges are low, not doing too well overall. Also, for whatever reason, I'm taking damage from Cold Snap, even though I still have a charge active, so that's... Thank you, Kabam. I was hoping I'm gonna get some healing going on, but oh well. Bugs remain to be bugs, I suppose, and not much to do there. However, we still survived the fight, and even with all that, I don't really need Corvus for any more fights. At least, well, I'm not gonna use him for any more fights. And yeah, now we're going in again, Freezer Burn node against Heimdall. Now, Heimdall can sometimes be pain in the butt, because he just refuses to throw his level 1 occasionally, and also the fact that he has that auto block chance, and overall he's not the more difficult opponent, but his animations occasionally kind of catch me, because he has like a really long range second medium that can kind of clip you, and I don't know, like, he's not a difficult opponent, but he's one of those, like, if I am sleepy at all, he often at least lands a combo or 2 on me, so I do need to be really careful against this guy. And here, once again, he absolutely refuses to throw his level 1, so I'm dancing about and checking time, like the time is ticking, and he just won't throw it. He's like being a total jerk. And I definitely don't want to push him to 2 bars of power. Also, I can't really hit his block, just because that could place a Cold Snap on me, and then if I get stuck without being able to phase, that can do a bunch of damage to me. Now, another mistake, luckily we didn't get any Cold Snap on us, because we landed entire special 2 in the block. So at least finally he started moving, we can start dealing some damage. We got a Fury because of our heavy attack, we got a passive Fury before because of the Incinerate. Now again, we strike him in a block, so we're gonna land a heavy attack on him, and we're just gonna slowly but surely finish off this fight. Now, we had another Incinerate on us, which we phased off quickly, which is basically the game plan here with Ghost and Freezer Burn anyways. We do attack him until we see a debuff of Incinerate, and then quickly phase it off and turn it into a Fury. But anyways, we swiftly finished that fight off, and now I have to wait till I get unlinked for Yondu, which happened like a couple of hours later. So now I need to get in against this Yondu. Now this Yondu starts out unblockable. Luckily with Ghost it doesn't really matter. However, if I'm using other champions, and because often I do this fight in mornings again, it has caught me more often than I would like to admit. The fact that I can't like dash back and do initial parry, it's just like a bit frustrating. But overall, it's like absolutely nothing special about this fight. As we can see here, it's over like super quickly, and it's that easy. It's just kind of like whether it's gonna catch you at the beginning or not. And now I was waiting, saw that Darkhawk was linked for quite a while, and then later on in the day I noticed that the link has gone down, even though technically it isn't on my path or it isn't in the set of nodes I usually do. If I have a chance to do the fight, then why not? So basically this guy has empowered immunity and stun immunity, so we can't parry him. If we do try to parry him, he's gonna gain a bunch of power. Aside from that, that is a super basic fight. Obviously you do need to be aware of how Darkhawk functions, that every time you knock him down, he's gonna get his shield mode activated, and then he can like try and parry you and all sorts of bad stuff. But that does not mean that we will not throw any special attacks or knock him down. It just means that we're gonna have to wait it out. So now we drop a level 2, he's at 34%, and his shield mode is active, so we just need to wait it out. It's not too long, it's like 10 seconds or 8 seconds, I don't even know, but you can easily just kind of like play a bit passive for a while and then carry on as normal. The most annoying bit about fighting Darkhawk always is the fact that his level 1 is just dead annoying to try and evade, and I pretty much never try, so I just end up eating a lot of block damage. Obviously Ghost has a chance to phase quite a bit of it, but still the phase isn't long enough for you to phase all of it, so you do end up taking a chip damage here and there. But still not too bad for Ghost and Core Without Suicides. We didn't use any items so far, and now we're in section 3, and section 3 this week I absolutely hate because it's acid wash or acid wash. And the way it basically works is, unless opponent has a poison debuff or a passive inflicted on them, you deal 10% of your damage. So you do need to make sure you can poison your opponents. With passives, it's kind of odd as well. I don't know if it's a bug or not. For instance, I tried Nick Fury on this path like a couple of weeks ago, and even though I got my inner bleeds going and they are passive debuffs, I was still dealing absolutely no damage. So I don't know if it's fixed or not, or what passives work or do not work. So I just stick to Dr. Voodoo because he poisons well. Unfortunately, the bit that is super annoying is the fact that this week is Mystic Attack Penalty week, so I'm only dealing 60% of my damage as is because of the global node, so I get a 40% attack penalty. Also the fact that I need to fight science and skill champions, and those champions receive attack bonuses this week, and it's overall just a fairly bad time. So but I will have to squeeze through with my rank 4 Voodoo, and for most part, so long as we have at least one poison on them, we have absolutely no problems. Also Dr. Voodoo is the one champion in my team at the moment that I can actually take advantage of the juke node, the global node, that basically we need to finish our combos alternating with mediums and lights. If we do finish a 5-hit combo with like a light attack, we get a Fury. Then if we do finish the next 5-hit combo with a medium, we get another Fury, and we can stack them up to 10. That does help with damage output, but you do need to kind of keep track on what you have used last, and it's sometimes a bit confusing, but overall it's not too bad, and that at least kind of helps us with the damage output. I suppose this would be also a fairly good place to use Mysterio now that we have him, because other than Voodoo, before we didn't really have any champions available that can like consistently, reliably poison opponents throughout the fight. But yeah, so anyways, we dealt with the first fight. We have to wait till that spider gets cleared, and now that it has been cleared, we have last 3 fights of this quest left. All 3 of them have acid wash on them. That means it's still gonna be job for Dr. Voodoo. Now my Dr. Voodoo is only rank 4, but I don't know, so far he has been doing perfectly fine. Maybe on later days it's a bit more tight and it's kind of dependent on RNG. But once again, we're just gonna try our best to use a juke node in order to get some passive furies on us, increase our damage output, and then keep poisons on opponent for as long as we can. And obviously Dr. Voodoo has the heal at beginning of every fight, so that is going to help us to deal with any kind of chip damage we're going to take, especially against this Punisher. Now I can evade his level 1, but it still occasionally catches me, so for most part I just choose to block the first 2 shots and evade the last one. So here we're actually getting quite decent RNG with our laws and converting them into poisons, and that's pretty much it. I'm not really kind of watching whether we're on even or odd combo when we're launching special attacks, just because I don't think it matters too much for most part in these kind of fights, and I also want to stack up my juke as much as possible. I did make a mistake about it earlier, but now I'm again kind of keeping a track of what combos I'm throwing and trying to use this node to my advantage. But as you can see here, so 60 hits in, he's at 20%, so he's going down fairly well. He is going to be scarier in later days for sure, especially with that block and chip damage. And also I need to mention that I do have Mystic Dispersion on at 4 currently. And yeah, so Punisher is down, we have 2 more fights left, and then we're going to add a bit of noded Thanos action. So next opponent in our lane is Winter Soldier. Now Winter Soldier is like super easy, because you can just fully await his level 1, therefore you don't take any chip damage, and Dr. Voodoo is going to heal up at the beginning of the fight, so we're going to finish this fight nice and healthy if we don't make any big mistakes. Once again, trying my best to alternate in between light and medium attack finishing combos and keep my combos at 5 for most part, in order to stack up the passive furies. But that all being said, I do find this node really annoying. This is probably, actually definitely my least favorite week of AQ, especially when it's combined with Mystic Attack Penalty. It's just fairly painful compared to kind of rest of the weeks, rest of the sections, that there is pretty much only like one champion that I can reliably use here, at least as far as I know, because as I mentioned before, that like Nick Fury's passive inner bleed didn't seem to work as a passive, so I was still dealing no damage, so that was like a really painful path for me to push through, especially with Punisher's level 1 and chip damage there. So yeah, I don't know, I absolutely don't like this kind of node design, and I definitely do not like this path, but oh well, it's at least 1 out of 3 weeks that I have to deal with it, so I had 2 weeks of peace and quiet from this node. So now that Winter Soldier is down, we only have Sentry left. Now, we do have class disadvantage against Sentry, which is annoying. However, Sentry is like a super easy opponent to face, so I'm never kind of like too worried. It might just take a bit longer, but it's definitely not a hard fight at all. So we can see how little are we hitting by 72 and 16, 28 damage. So we do need to get those poisons going. As soon as we do that, those poisons do a fair amount of work. Also, we're back to our kind of like decent regular damage output, which does help out a fair bit. And slowly but surely, we're going to be able to deal with this Sentry like it's no problem really. It just takes a while. It's definitely my, once again, least favorite part of my AQ routine. Yes, routine. But overall, I don't mind my path. I have fairly good roster to kind of deal with whatever path I'm put on, so I don't typically complain about this one either. I mean, everyone has some difficult path on AQ, so we each have to do our bit. And once again, we have used juke really well. With 58 hits in, we're at 10 passive furies, so we have increased our damage output as much as we can. In this fight, we dropped a level 1 and he's about to die just a bit over a minute, so this fight we definitely had a good RNG, decent damage output, can't complain overall. Now Thanos is still noded, and then I waited for a bit, and then I ended up putting on suicides because I was recording a Bishop video for my fun but impractical series, and we had only the all or nothing link on. Now we actually take this boss with all or nothing quite often, and the point is just push him to almost 3 bars of power with Corvus and just kind of time out and then go back in again. But I was in a bit of a rush today, so I'm just gonna deal as much damage as I can before he gets to level 3 and then call it a day, because then the rest of my team can pick it up. So we started at like 83%, so you can see how much we can deal to this guy before he basically killed us. So now I'm gonna throw level 1 at 1 charge remaining, 75% there. I also had Ghost. I can use Ghost with suicides against this guy just because we convert the suicide debuffs into Fury, and that means we're not gonna kind of kill ourselves. I'm not even gonna bother with the Voodoo though. And yeah, with Ghost again, pretty much the same story. We're just gonna deal as much damage as we can, pushing him to level 3 and then quit the fight. So we're not gonna kill the boss, we're not even gonna really attempt to, but we're still gonna do our bit, put some decent damage on him, and then just leave it to the rest of the guys to finish off. But anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed today's AQ video. So we got through it all without using a single item, which is always awesome. And yeah, that's about it for today guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button, sub button, share button, all the good buttons, and I'm going to catch you soon. Hopefully you enjoyed Thanos smacking me against the wall. See ya.